one business to outperform competitors, focusing on high quality and high price. International quality standards, those are expectations expressed in the minimal amount, and of course international means it's throughout the world. And then one thing that we talked about is the ISO, International Standardized Organization 9000, and so that's the award that you get if you do have very high international quality standards.
Do they talk about ISO 9000? Okay, you just incorporated that.
Yes. Export, shipping goods out of the country, pretty basic. Regional trade blocks, those are intergovernmental agreements where regional barriers to trade are reduced or eliminated among participating states. So basically, if you think about it, like, it's just geopolitically, you just kind of like, that's a big word too, okay. So just on certain parts of the world, you just kind of like make agreements with your neighbors, kind of, so like you can take things up to Canada pretty easily. And it's just kind of like that sort of idea. And so some of the barriers to trade that can be reduced are like tariffs, licenses, quotas, subsidies, or embargoes, and just any government-induced restrictions on trade.
Tell me how you would anticipate this term in regards to the case study.
Well, this is something that currently Royal Danish Bearings doesn't have as many regional trading blocks. However, it's something that Vladimir in the end, after Anna was like, here's my proposal, it was something that he seemed to be leaning towards because he didn't want to get rid of his big businesses. Instead, he wanted to have trade agreements with other smaller countries. Yes.
Scott just texted me and said, "So Ramsey will be right back. Charlie and Thompson had a story for us."
Well, I can tell you guys the story in a minute, too.
And so here's just a summary of what my little paragraphs are about, just in case if no one read them. So it's just kind of a summary of like the development in their competition. So after World War II, we have these new Japanese companies, and they have really low labor costs. And so that is their advantage. And during this time, Royal Danish Bearing maintains their high quality as well as their market share because they have a different target market because they're still on the high, and so the Japanese companies don't really interfere with what they're dealing with. They're part of the market share. However, after the 1970s, Japan starts to develop the competitive advantage. So by now they have a developed economy, they have higher wages, so they can't, they don't have the low labor costs, which allow them to like sell to a lower market. So their wages have risen, and so what their advantage is now is that they have just-in-time production, which is a new concept. And so it's very fast and it's very specific, so that's one of the Japanese advantages. And they also have this unique selling point of flexibility then, just because their just-in-time production is so fast and specific, it's easy to change. And it also is meeting all these international standards, which means it's really easy for them to deal with all these different trade blocks. And so by the 1970s and afterwards, Japan does have this advantage.
Hey, hang on, go back. This is an excellent summary and something that would really help you to understand where the ball bearing industry has come from, okay? And I can see questions where maybe they're asking you to recap or to summarize the development of the industry and what you could anticipate for the future. Really good.
And so here's your first question. Identify the Japanese marketing strategy of using low labor costs to gain entry into the market.
Somebody say market penetration.
And it's only one mark. So, anyone have an answer?
Market penetration.
Yep. Sorry, I just had to include that. It was right in there.
Lily!
It was in there. It was a valid question.
Can you go back, actually?
Wait. Oh, sorry.
You guys should be writing these questions down. And the answers, Scott.
Yeah, that's the answer, Rumsey.
Then I guess just let me know when you're ready for the next question.
Every single answer on the test sheet. I'll get one right.
Yeah, because IB people have sense of humors.
Isn't a computer grading it?
Oh, there's moderators, there's readers.
Oh.
They won't find it nearly as funny.
As
What if we like underline it with LOL? Like people will pick up on it.
No, I wasn't grading them.
Don't get pop swat.
Okay, so the next question is distinguish
Definitely.
how Royal Danish Bearing's productions differs from the just-in-time production. And so to answer this, I actually made an assumption about what production type Royal Danish Bearings use. So I guess just take some time to meditate on this and like think for a while before I jump
Meditate.
into the answer.
So remind us, how are they? What is your assumption before you tell us straight out how you think they are producing currently?
Well, there are two different types of production, and one of them is the original type of production, and then just-in-time was made to like contradict this and to fix some of the issues this original one had. So that's like a hint, I guess. Does this make sense, Rumsey, or not? Okay.
Keep going.
Oh, should I answer it now? I thought I was supposed to give people time to think. Okay. Basically, so I differentiated between just in case and just in time. And so I jumped to the conclusion that it was just in case for Royal Danish Bearings because up until this point they've been sticking with like the old traditional model of just about everything. And so it wasn't explicitly in there, however it did say that the Japanese company had just in time which rivaled their production method, and so those are kind of the two main production methods. And so again, just in case is the traditional, whereas just in time eliminates all this waste from this traditional model. And I guess just going through just in case, kind of how the production differs is just where they have their different costs coming from. So just in case you have opportunity costs, storage costs, and the risk of becoming obsolete. Whereas with just in time, you have different costs. We have loss of sales, idle production resources, the expense of special orders, and small order quantities.
Keep in mind too that one of the things we can assume is that as a family business that's been located for a while, just as you said, this is a traditional model. And so a lot of what Anna is pushing towards, which her father does not like, is this let's downsize a little bit, let's get rid of these big factories. Also take into consideration the type of product. Is a ball bearing going to go obsolete?
Not anytime in the near future.
Right, not anytime in the near future. And the one word that I would really hope that you put in your compare, contrast, advantages, disadvantages would be economies of scale. Because especially for something like the ball bearings, just in case, really models the economies of scale. Good.
What do you mean by lost sales?
So remember for just in time, if they don't get it out in time, then, so let's say like the example with like all the Nike socks or whatever from your Charlotte Parker, and then like they like weren't in stock, and then, so then of course you couldn't sell them, and that could lead to people like not respecting your brand or going to a different store.
Okay, so is that like a result or enough?
What I tried to break it up into like different costs, so like the disadvantages of both sides, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense.
It would be a lost in sale just if your demand was so high that you couldn't supply it.
Sure.
Any other questions?
And that's a great chart, and this is another good point. And like I told you guys, I personally anticipate questions on production methods, okay? I can easily see you having to answer a higher mark question. Tell us where you think they've been. What is your recommendation for where they would go? I mean, this is really what we're looking at. They've been just in case, and Anna is really looking at pushing them to just in time. Good.
And so our next is how could Royal Danish Bearings compete with a Japanese company's strength of, well, all their different strengths really, but evaluate from both Anna and Vladimir's perspective. So for this, you kind of need to rely on like the holistic view of the case study.
You gonna give us this one?
Yeah. So, I would answer this that Anna, her push is to be selling globally, creating more flexible factories, changing to the green engineering, increasing marketing, and decreasing labor costs. Whereas Vladimir would like to maintain tradition, minimize risks, maintain ownership of the company, and just kind of really emphasize the loyalty, like customer loyalty, and just to maintain their social responsibility, which is how he sees remaining in Denmark.
On this, you're really looking at an old school philosophy and a new school. I could also see them asking you about management styles, and here are motivational styles, okay? So that has a lot to do with it. You're kind of looking at you're looking at a big generation gap issue here. Good.
And that's it.
Okay, questions for Lily?